this video, we're going to talk about what to eat during your kickstart. A juicy question you're probably wondering, especially since we believe let food be thy medicine. Your kickstart is all about helping your gut establish a baseline foundation for optimal digestion and feeling good from the inside out. So what to eat specifically? Real foods. One of my greatest nutrition mentors once told me, if it didn't grow on the land, swim in the sea, or roam the earth, it's not real food. Basically, just keep it simple. If your great-grandmother didn't know what it was or eat it, then your body probably doesn't either. And these are gonna be foods typically found on the outside perimeter of a grocery store, or say if you go to the farmer's market, foods that you may find there and buy from the farmers. Instead of getting caught up in diet names either, or specific rules and regulations, just keep it simple. Eat real whole foods in the least processed state as possible that your body was meant to thrive upon. Clean, organic, grass-fed or wild-caught proteins, fresh fruits and vegetables, healthy fats like avocados, coconut or coconut butter, oil, olives, olive oil, ghee, lard, beef tallow. Again, foods that your great-grandmother would have eaten. No added sugar, lots of water, and try to avoid most processed foods. Even nowadays, there are a lot of healthy options of processed foods, which are awesome, but ultimately aim for real fresh foods as much as possible and try to avoid most processed foods. Thankfully today, there are a lot of options that are more real food friendly items. So things like coconut flour tortillas, for example, or like nut butter. You're gonna find that in the middle of an aisle at the grocery store as opposed to the perimeter. But for the most part, stick to those real whole foods. All with 80-20 balance, of course. If there's one thing that you should know, it is that there is no such thing as perfection, especially when it comes to eating. You may have heard of the hygiene hypothesis when it comes to immunity, meaning the cleaner you are, the sicker you actually become. You pick up germs. This is a lot of times why kids that aren't exposed to daycare early on in their life may go to school, kindergarten, first grade, come home with a lot of gut bugs, or colds and flus, that kind of symptomology. The hygiene hypothesis is at work. So basically 80-20 is all about a little dirt never hurt. Same thing when it comes to food then. So when it comes to food with the hygiene hypothesis, this really means that, when in Rome, let the real pasta happen. On your birthday, eat a slice of cake. On a Friday night, if your friends say, let's go out to dinner, go and order something on the menu that sounds good. If you are a mathematical person, 80-20 balance could look like 1, maybe 2 gut-love treats a day. And I'm not just talking about chocolate. I'm really just talking about imperfect food. Basically, we're in this for the long haul together, and your kickstart is really about laying a foundation for sustainability to last you for a lifetime. Not just a 30-day experiment for your gut to see how restrictive you can be, and then feel guilty about if you happen to eat oatmeal on day number 15 and having to start at day 1. That totally happened to me. One last thing I'll say about 80-20 balance is there's a vitamin called vitamin P that a lot of diets don't talk about. Vitamin P really means pleasure, vitamin pleasure. And that's just enjoying foods that you actually prepare for yourself or that you consume too. So if I'm eating chicken and broccoli every day, and I'm really hating that chicken and broccoli, how well do you think I'm gonna digest and absorb it if my cortisol's going, my adrenaline's going, and I'm just feeling pretty about the chicken and broccoli? Not so hot, because of how the gut-brain connection works. When you're stressed, your gut is stressed, and vice versa. When your gut is stressed, we tend to be more stressed ourselves as well. So it's all about balance. The milkshake study is a perfect example of this. In the study, researchers wanted to see what happened to the stress levels and the metabolisms of 2 separate groups that got a milkshake. One group got a census shake, a 140-calorie milkshake. The other group got the indulgent shake, a 600-calorie milkshake. In actuality, both milkshakes had the same exact amount of calories, 300 calories. What do you think happened? Well, the people that got the census shake actually had a 3 times increase in their hunger levels and stress hormone levels. They were in the diet mentality, so therefore they were feeling deprived. Whereas the other group, the indulgent shake folks, they actually felt way more satisfied, nourished, and just like they got a treat. Again, both milkshakes were the exact same milkshake. The purpose of the study was to show how stress changes our physiology, how our body optimally functions. So if we're stressing out over our food, there's a good chance our gut is gonna stress out over that food as well. Just some food for thought. All right, so you may be wondering specifics, like, so what exactly do I eat in a day? I like to encourage my clients to build out a template of meals to eat throughout the day. So for example, breakfast or your first morning meal may be a gut love shake, or it may be something simple like a protein and veggie or green from the night before. I actually love dinner for breakfast. If you're not into that though, you could do something like eggs or turkey or chicken sausage and maybe some fiber alongside it. So throw some mushrooms, spinach, broccoli, zucchini, whatever veggie you want in your eggs, or you could do a side of like berries as well. Or if you do something like a chicken or turkey sausage, same thing. Maybe do a hash on the side, some sweet potato hash or butternut squash hash with greens and mushrooms, add some avocado on top and call it a day. Really balance is what we're going for in each meal, including a protein, a fat, and a healthy fiber or two. A fiber would be mostly in the form of veggies with intermixing 1 or 2 fruits in the day if you like. You'll find tons of recipes actually in your Total Gut Reset cookbook too, included in the program. Fast forward to your midday meal, lunch. I absolutely love to do gut love bowls. A gut love bowl would include those same components, a protein, healthy fat or 2, and some fiber, ideally something green and something colorful. So for example, I may flash cook some baby bok choy or rainbow chard, or just have some mixed greens like a salad green. Throw on some chicken, put in some avocado or avocado dressing. Absolutely love the Primal Kitchen dressings at the moment. And then something colorful, maybe roasted carrots, pickled beets, butternut squash, or some summer squash that I've roasted as well. You can really mix up your gut love bowls though with any of those contents: protein, healthy fats, something green, and something colorful. If you're not feeling the bowl thing, a wrap is also a great option. I do wraps all the time with some sort of lettuce wrap, and I'll do maybe wild caught tuna, or again chicken, or leftover ground meat like taco meat wrapped up in it. Throw on some paleo friendly dressing or guacamole, something with healthy fat in it, and maybe I'll do a side of roasted carrot fries or rutabaga chips that I've sliced up, or you could do even some coconut flour tortilla chips or plantain chips. The sky is really the limit there, but a gut love bowl or a wrap is a really great staple for a midday meal. Fast forward to our evening meal, dinner, that's where I do the most creating in the kitchen. So I typically only cook once a day, and that's at dinner time. I'll repurpose that then for the next day, maybe in my lunch or breakfast meal. So maybe I'm making bison burger patties one night, another night I may make crispy chicken thighs, another night it may be baked salmon. So mixing up your proteins, include something green, something colorful, and again, 1 or 2 healthy fats. Healthy fats could be like cooking your greens in ghee, and maybe I'll drizzle on some olive oil on my sweet potato that night. Really mix it up, the sky is the limit, and just using a template of say a gut love shake or something with protein and greens or veggies at breakfast, lunch being a bowl or lettuce wrap, and then dinner being where you get to mix it up with protein, fat, and fiber. That's pretty simple. As far as not right now foods go, or foods that I would encourage you to take caution on, primarily because of how they can affect your gut microbiome and inflammation, would definitely be the top players that you hear a lot about: gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, and then industrial seed oils. These foods are not innately bad in nature. If we are having that 80-20 balance, we occasionally get exposed to them. Our body, like a speed bump, can go over the speed bump and get back onto the path. However, if we're consuming these quite frequently, as most Americans do, it can lead to health issues down the line, specifically disruptions in the gut microbiome, as well as leaky gut symptomologies. Throughout your program, we'll talk all about these a little bit more in depth, especially with gluten. There's a lot of obviously opinions out there, and there's a lot of gluten-free movement nowadays. A big belief of mine is that it's not just gluten that we're eating when we consume gluten-containing foods, but it's really the 20 different shades of gluten that are now in our processed foods, for one, as well as things like pesticides, herbicides like Roundup or glyphosate. and mycotoxins or mold toxins that tend to be in grain stuffs and wheat stuffs in our country. So it's not just gluten we're being exposed to. And this can be said for every one of those foods I just mentioned. Same like with dairy, we're really not consuming dairy in the raw, just purest state nowadays. It's been very processed and watered down. So therefore, we're just not getting the enzymes, the probiotics, and all the beneficial properties, the nutrients, the minerals from that milk or that cheese like our ancestors did. That's primarily why I recommend avoiding some of the top inflammatory foods, so we can really lean into optimizing your gut microbiome. As far as healthy foods that may make you not feel so great right now, you recognize like, Dr. Lauren, I feel bloated every time I eat fiber or carbs, like what's the deal? Or I feel like there's a brick in my stomach every time I consume chicken or beef, what's the deal? And a lot of times this goes back to your digestive mechanics as well as your gut bacteria. What is the balance like in your gut? Health is an inside job. So with the protein, for example, feeling like a brick in your stomach, a lot of times that's just a sign of low stomach acid. When we bump up that stomach acid, your body's gonna be able to better break that down and absorb it. The interesting thing about protein is very rarely do you see protein in your stool, meaning it is the most bioavailable nutrient we can give our body. Your body is meant to absorb it. So if you're not feeling great when you eat it, a lot of times that it has to do with not enough stomach acid and or perhaps enzymes, things that will help you optimize that probably have been low from various stressors in your life. Well, same thing with fiber. If you're not feeling great with fiber, say when I eat vegetables, when I eat broccoli, when I eat Brussels sprouts, when I eat a salad, I don't feel great. Well, there's a reason why. That oftentimes can be indicative of something like dysbiosis, candida, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, some gut bacteria imbalance where your body's not able to digest that fiber, because your healthy bacteria optimally want to run on fiber. Our ancestors ate like 100 grams of fiber. Most Americans only are eating about 10 to 15 grams. To put that into context, that's like 10 times less than our ancestors ate, and our ancestors were much healthier overall without the chronic disease outcomes that we see today in our society. Bottom line is health is an inside job. So if healthy foods don't make you feel great now, I would encourage you as you start out, do listen to your gut and how you're feeling. Don't necessarily force yourself to eat foods that don't make you feel great. And yet I encourage you to be open-minded to expanding your diet as we improve your digestive mechanics. Don't worry about all the details now too of improving your digestive mechanics. We will definitely be focusing on that throughout your program. Lastly, I want to share just some meal prep hacks to make eating and fueling your gut bugs possible throughout your program. When it comes to meal prep, just remember failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Now, meal prep does not necessarily mean having to spend like 4 to 6 hours in the kitchen on a Sunday prepping your meals for the entire week. I actually don't ever do that at all. I really do cook on one time a day on a daily basis, and I found that works for me. It's kind of my like meditative time. I've unwinded from the day and I'm able to just cook for just like 20 to 30 minutes even. It's really all I need to prepare what I'm gonna eat for dinner that night and repurpose leftovers for the next day or even several days. Sometimes I will do some batch cooking in that time. If that flow doesn't work for you though, it's really about figuring out the flow that does. So for you, it may mean like 2-3 days a week, you set a little bit of time aside to batch cook some, say, chicken breast. Maybe you're doing some turkey or beef meatballs or baking your fish. Usually protein is gonna require the most prep work. And then you could batch roast a whole baking sheet of vegetables. So say you have summer squash, carrots, broccoli, asparagus, like the sky is the limit there. That could feed you for several days. And that's just on one day that you're cooking, you know, some batch cooked proteins, some batch cooked vegetables to last you. Really, and then if one day a week is really gonna work for you in your schedule, you could just set aside that time and get creative and fun in the kitchen. Maybe invite a friend or two over and y'all can cook together, or with your partner or with your kids. Get others involved. You could also just throw on some headphones and have your own karaoke party or catch up on some podcasts. The ultimate goal too is to just keep it simple too. No, you don't need to be a gourmet chef when you're doing meal prep. So if you cook 2 to 3 different types of proteins for the week, maybe 2 to 3 different types of starches, say like sweet potatoes, maybe I have a butternut squash and some acorn squash. And then you just keep your low starch veggies on hand. Sometimes I'll even keep frozen vegetables, like say frozen green beans, frozen broccoli, frozen greens, that are really easy to flash cook in the minute. Then you can just kind of add flavors as needed throughout the week. So say you do use some green goddess dressing one night with your chicken that you've made, and then the next night you could use some like paleo honey mustard dressing on that or with that. Or using things like coconut aminos, fresh herbs and spices. As far as different recipes go, you really don't need to be a gourmet chef. This is where herbs, spices, and real food ingredient types of dressings and marinades can come into play. I absolutely love using coconut aminos, which is a great substitute for say Worcestershire sauce or soy sauce, as well as I'll do a lot of different varied dressings. So I may do a green goddess dressing one day, a cilantro lime dressing, maybe a honey mustard, all with real food ingredients of course, but those are ways to add flavors and spices to foods that can be pretty staple otherwise. So maybe I have chicken thighs in my kitchen, I have some sort of fish, like a cod, a salmon, a halibut, and then I may have some beef, ground turkey, or bison. And varying up my meats with different flavors, and then same thing with my vegetables, different starches and some different low starch veggies. So for your starches, maybe you have sweet potatoes, maybe you have a winter squash like an acorn squash or a butternut squash, and then maybe you have something like carrots or beets. That would be some great starches to keep in your kitchen. And then for your low starch veggies, that's really where a lot of green veggies can come into play. So varying up your greens, chard, kale, spinach, as well as things like green beans, asparagus. And you can kind of just mix and mingle those different foods with different flavors. The Total Gut Reset cookbook will help give you some ideas, as well as just remind you to just keep it simple. One last thing I want to add is it's great to keep some eat in a moment or eat in a pinch foods on hand. Foods that if you really don't have anything prepped that night and you get home late, say at 9 or 10 p.m. and you're starving, that you can have an easy go-to. I always keep some sort of pre-cooked frozen burger in my freezer. So whether it's a turkey burger or a beef burger that I've cooked before or that I've bought at the store. A rotisserie chicken can be a really great staple to have in your fridge during the week, as well as canned wild salmon, tuna, or organic chicken in your pantry. That would be for your proteins. As far as veggies to keep on hand for in a pinch, that's where the frozen veggies can really come into play. You can just really fast cook those on the stove or in the microwave if needed. Sweet potatoes are really easy to nuke in the microwave too, 6 to 7 minutes. And then of course, like you have your whole fruits, that apples, oranges, that really don't go bad super fast. And then your healthy fat and things like almonds, macadamia nuts, avocados, olives, that you can add a little bit more oomph to your meal for eating in a pinch. Remember, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Lastly, for the lazy chef option, or if you're just really not into the cooking thing, that is okay. Thankfully, we live in a world where there's a lot of other people that like to prep for people, as well as meal delivery options available. I'm including a list for you in the program if you want to order, say, some pre-prepped meals for you to keep in your freezer, to eat for those in a pinch moments, or to just have on hand for all your lunches for the week or all your dinners for the week, to really help you take the thought out of the prep and the cooking so you can just get on to eating and living life.